Are you gay? Tell me, are you gay?
You think I'm gay? Jada Morrison froze in the doorway of the Gangnam penthouse, her accusations dying on her lips. She just confronted her husband of 2 weeks, this cold, untouchable Korean mafia heir who refused to share her bed, and his laugh was the most terrifying sound she'd ever heard. Kang Dae-hwang stepped closer, and suddenly the space between them felt too small. 6'3" of lethal grace, intricate dragon tattoo coiling up his forearm and disappearing beneath his rolled-up shirt sleeves, dark eyes blazing with something that made her pulse spike. "You naive woman," he said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper that somehow felt like a caress against her skin. "You see what you expect to see." The late Seoul afternoon sun cut through the floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing him in golden light. Jada's heart hammered as she took him in. This man who'd barely looked at her during their forced wedding, who now stared at her like she was the only thing in the room worth burning for. "Then why won't you touch me?" The words came out breathier than intended. Heat crept up her neck as his gaze dropped to her lips, then lower. "Why do you flinch every time I get close?" Something dangerous flickered across Kang Dae's face. He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive that made her dizzy. "You want to know why I don't touch you?" "Yes." Her back hit the wall. "Because every woman I've ever touched ends up dead." The words should have terrified her. Instead, all Jada could focus on was the way his chest rose and fell, the way his tattooed fingers flexed at his sides like he was physically restraining himself from reaching for her. The dragon seemed to move with each shift of muscle. She swallowed hard. "That's one hell of an excuse to avoid your wife." His eyes widened fractionally. Then, impossibly, his mouth quirked. "You think I'm joking? I think you're dramatic." The words tumbled out before she could stop them, a defense mechanism she'd learned growing up in L.A., deflecting tension with sass. "Very K-drama. Do you practice that brooding look in the mirror?" Kang Dae blinked. Then something incredible happened. He almost smiled. "You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of tiptoeing around a man who acts like I have the plague." She crossed her arms, and his gaze tracked the movement, lingering on the way her blouse pulled tight. 3 fiancés. You going to explain that, or should I guess? Secret agent, vampire, really bad at relationships. "All 3 are dead, Jada." His voice went rough, the almost smile dying. "Minseo, tortured and killed 2 weeks before our wedding. Ye-jin, found in the Han River. Ji-won, dead 3 days after I proposed." The anguish in his eyes stole her breath. "So I stopped. I let everyone think I was gay. Anything to keep women away from me, to keep them alive." Oh God. Jada's sass crumbled. The puzzle. Pieces clicked into place. Ji-hoon wasn't his lover, he was security. The separate bedrooms weren't rejection, they were protection. "You're not gay," she said softly, watching him flinch. "You're just carrying 3 ghosts." His jaw tightened. "Same result. You stay away from me." "Can't. Already married you." She channeled every ounce of her mother's Nigerian boldness, the woman who'd raised 2 kids alone in America and never backed down from anything. "Your father gave us 18 months to produce an heir, or my family pays for my brother's debts. So unless you've got a better plan, we're stuck with each other." Kang Dae stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You don't understand what you're risking." "I understand I'm already dead if we don't try." She pushed off the wall, closing the distance between them, watching his entire body go rigid. "But here's what I don't understand. Why you're deciding for me. I'm 29, not 12. I can make my own choices about danger." "Not this danger." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "You're beautiful, Jada. Stunning. Do you know how hard it's been? Watching you move through my space, smelling your perfume in the hallways, hearing you sing those American R&B songs in the shower." Heat flooded her face. "You can hear that." "Every word." His gaze raked over her, hungry and desperate. "And every time you walk into a room, I want to—" He cut himself off, turning away sharply. Her pulse thundered. "Wanna what?" "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." Kang Dae spun back, and the raw need in his eyes nearly buckled her knees. I want to touch you, taste you, keep you in my bed until you forget every man you've ever known. The confession tore out of him. I want to mark every inch of your skin so everyone knows you're mine. Does that scare you? Yes. And God help her. It also made heat pool low in her belly. Maybe, she breathed, but not as much as dying without ever knowing what it feels like. The air between them crackled. Kang Dae's hand lifted, tattooed fingers trembling as they hovered near her cheek. The dragon's head seemed poised to strike. This is a mistake, he whispered. Probably. His thumb grazed her jawline, and Jada's breath hitched. The touch was feather-light, reverent, setting every nerve ending on fire. I can't lose you too, he said, voice wrecked. Then don't. Work with me. We find whoever's killing these women, we end this curse, and we... His hand slid into her hair, tilting her face up, and Jada's thoughts scattered. He was so close now she could feel his breath against her lips, see the war raging behind his eyes. You have no idea what you do to me, he murmured, his other hand settling on her hip, burning through the thin fabric of her skirt. Show me. For one breathless moment, the world narrowed to just them. His hand in her hair, his body heat overwhelming her senses, his mouth inches from hers. She could taste the inevitability of this, the dangerous chemistry that had been building since the moment she'd stepped off that plane from L.A. The penthouse door burst open. Kang Dae jerked back like he'd been burned, his hands dropping from her body. The loss of contact felt physical. Ji-hoon stood in the entrance, face pale, holding a bouquet of white flowers. Someone delivered these to the front desk, for Mrs. Hwang. Kang Dae's entire body went rigid. What kind? White chrysanthemums. The temperature in the room plummeted. Jada didn't understand until she saw the expression on her husband's face. Pure, visceral terror. The same ones? Kang Dae's voice was barely audible. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. Same ones left at all 3 crime scenes. Jada's blood turned to ice. The flowers were beautiful, innocent, and somehow the most sinister thing she'd ever seen. The killer knew where she lived, knew she was the 4th woman. And based on the card Ji-hoon was now holding up, the one that read, "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Hwang," in elegant script, they were watching. Kang Dae moved then, crossing the room in 3 strides to position himself between her and the door, between her and the flowers, between her and any threat. His hand found hers, squeezing once. From now on, he said, his voice deadly calm, you don't go anywhere without me. Jada should have argued, should have bristled at the command. Instead, all she could think was, finally, he's touching me, even if it took a death threat to make it happen. Will Jada become the killer's 4th victim? And what happens when danger forces her and Kang Dae closer than either of them planned? Subscribe now, because what Kang Dae does next will change everything. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Kang Dae's hand was still wrapped around hers when Ji-hoon set the flowers on the marble counter like they might explode. White chrysanthemums, the flowers Koreans brought to funerals. The message couldn't be clearer. Security footage? Kang Dae's voice was ice, but his thumb traced circles on Jada's palm, betraying the calm facade. Delivery service, paid in cash. The driver said a woman ordered them. Ji-hoon pulled out his tablet. The card was written in English, perfect English. Jada's stomach dropped. For me, specifically. Which means they know you're American. Kang Dae's grip tightened, possessive. They've been watching. The penthouse suddenly felt too exposed, all those floor-to-ceiling windows like targets. But Jada forced herself to think past the fear. Event planning had taught her to stay calm in chaos, even if collapsed wedding tents were different from death threats. If they wanted me dead, why announce it? She studied the flowers. Why not just do it? Kang Dae and Ji-hoon exchanged a loaded glance. Because it's a game, Kang Dae said finally. With the others, there were warnings, flowers, notes, things we missed until it was too late. His voice cracked. They liked the fear. How long between the first warning and 2 weeks? 2 weeks, 14 days to catch a killer or die trying. Okay. She squared her shoulders, channeling her mother's voice, the woman who'd survived immigrating from Lagos with nothing. Then we have 2 weeks to catch them. Kangdae stared at her like she'd sprouted a second head. You're not catching anyone. You're staying inside under guard until what? They get bored? Jada pulled her hand from his, immediately missing the warmth. That worked great for the last 3 women. His face darkened dangerously. Watch it. No, you watch it. She stepped closer, ignoring Ji-hoon's sharp inhale. I'm not some fragile thing you can lock in a tower. If someone wants me dead, I'd rather face them than wait around like a sitting duck. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Then explain it to me. She poked his chest. Solid muscle beneath expensive fabric. You've spent 5 years running from this. It hasn't stopped. Maybe it's time to stop running. Kangdae caught her wrist, his grip firm but gentle. The dragon tattoo flexed, scales rippling. You think I haven't tried? I think you've been trying alone. She didn't pull away. Whoever's doing this targets isolated women, women who don't fight back. But I'm not alone, and I sure as hell fight back. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe respect. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist right where her pulse raced. You're insane. You keep saying that. She managed a shaky smile. Is that your only adjective for me? I have others. His voice dropped, intimate and rough, reckless, stubborn, sexy when you're angry. Heat flooded her face. What? You heard me. His gaze dropped to her mouth. That little fire in your eyes when you're challenging me? It makes me want to push you against a wall and... If you two are done dirty talking while there's a murderer sending flowers, Ji-hoon interrupted loudly, maybe we could focus. Jada's entire body flushed, but Kangdae didn't look remotely embarrassed. If anything, his smile turned predatory. Show us everything, Kangdae said, still watching her. Every file, every theory. If my wife wants to be involved, she's involved. The possessive way he said, my wife, sent shivers down her spine. Ji-hoon muttered something in Korean that sounded distinctly like a prayer. Fine, but we're doing this in the safe room. If they're watching, I'm not giving them a show. As they followed Ji-hoon deeper into the penthouse, Kangdae's hand found her waist, pulling her against his side. The gesture was protective and claiming all at once. This is a terrible idea, he murmured against her ear. Most of my best ideas are terrible. She leaned into him, feeling the hard planes of his body. It's kind of my thing. Your thing is going to give me a heart attack. Better than boring you to death? His fingers flexed on her waist. Trust me, there's nothing boring about you. The safe room was hidden behind a false wall, windowless, soundproof, and covered in photographs that made Jada's breath catch. 3 beautiful women stared back at her from a crime scene board, and in every single image they wore white chrysanthemums in their hair. Jesus, Jada whispered. No connections between the victims except me, Kangdae said quietly. Different ages, backgrounds, professions. The only common thread, they were all engaged to marry me. Ji-hoon pulled up digital files. No forensic evidence, no witnesses. Whoever's doing this is a ghost. Jada studied the board, her event planner brain automatically looking for patterns, connections, anything out of place. What about enemies, business rivals, someone who wants to hurt your family? We have a list of 300 names, Ji-hoon said dryly. Mafia families collect enemies like stamps. Comforting. It gets better. Kangdae's voice was tight. Show her. Ji-hoon hesitated, then pulled up a new photo. Jada's heart stopped. It was her. Yesterday, walking into the Gangnam luxury mall, coffee in hand, completely unaware she was being photographed. They've been following you for at least 3 days, Ji-hoon said, maybe longer. The room tilted. 3 days. She'd been in Seoul for 3 weeks, married for 2, which meant the killer had started watching almost immediately. Hey. Kangdae turned her to face him, his hands cupping her face. Breathe. You're safe here. Am I? Her voice came out smaller than intended, because it seems like safe is relative when there's a psychopath with a camera following me to Starbucks. You're safe with me. His thumb stroked her cheekbones, the gesture achingly tender. I won't let anything happen to you, I swear it. You couldn't stop it before. The words came out before she could stop them. Kang Dae flinched like she'd struck him. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean... You're right. His hands dropped from her face. I couldn't protect them. What makes you think I can protect you? The defeat in his voice broke something in her chest. Because this time, you're not doing it alone. She grabbed his tattooed forearm, feeling the tension coiled beneath his skin. And because I'm not going down without a fight, we're going to catch this psycho, end this curse, and live to annoy each other another day. Kang Dae stared at her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he laughed, a rough, surprised sound. Annoy each other. You're already annoyed by me, I can tell. That's not what I'm feeling. His gaze turned heated again, dangerous, not even close. The air thickened between them. Ji-hoon groaned. I'm leaving before this gets R-rated. Boss, I'll pull surveillance from the mall. Maybe we can track whoever took that photo. He disappeared through the door, leaving them alone in the windowless room. Alone with crime scene photos and 2 weeks until a killer struck. Alone with heat building between them that had nothing to do with safety and everything to do with the way Kang Dae was looking at her like she was air, and he was drowning. We should focus on the case, Jada said, even as her body swayed toward his. We should. He didn't move. This is a bad time for whatever this is. The worst time. His hand found her waist again, pulling her closer. Someone's trying to kill me. I know. His other hand slid into her hair. Makes me want you more. Because every second with you feels stolen. Then his mouth was on hers, and thinking became impossible. The kiss was fire and desperation, Kang Dae's mouth claiming hers like he'd been starving for it. Jada's back hit the wall, and she didn't care because his body pressed against hers, all hard muscle and barely controlled need. His hand tightened in her hair, angling her head exactly where he wanted, and the sound that escaped her throat should have been embarrassing. But then his other hand gripped her hip, hard enough to leave marks, and thinking became impossible. 5 years, he growled against her mouth. 5 years of nothing, and then you... The safe room door burst open. They sprang apart like guilty teenagers. Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, expression carefully blank, holding his tablet. I have information, critical information. Should I give you a minute? Talk, Kang Dae bit out, his voice rough. His lips were swollen, his eyes still dark with want. Jada tried to calm her racing heart, hyper-aware of how she must look, flushed, breathing hard, her blouse somehow untucked. Ji-hoon's mouth twitched like he was fighting a smile. The photo was taken with a professional camera, Ji-hoon said, pulling up images. Long-range lens, expensive equipment. This isn't some amateur stalker. Kang Dae moved to study the screen, and Jada immediately missed his warmth. Focus. There was a killer to catch. She could explore whatever this thing was with her husband later, assuming she survived. Can we trace it? She asked. Not without the actual device, but I pulled mall security footage. Ji-hoon swiped through images. There, southeast corner, second floor. Black hoodie, face obscured. They watched you for 20 minutes. Jada's skin crawled. She'd been shopping for underwear and a Korean phrase book, completely mundane. And someone had been watching, photographing, planning. Male or female? Kang Dae's voice was lethal calm. Can't tell. Androgynous build, careful movements. They knew where the cameras were. Ji-hoon zoomed in. But here's the fun part. They followed you to the parking garage, photographed your taxi license plate. Ice flooded Jada's veins. Why would they need my plate number if they already know where I live? Exactly. Kang Dae's jaw tightened. This wasn't surveillance. It was a test. A test of what? Whether you'd notice, whether you had security, whether you were an easy target. He turned to her, something fierce blazing in his eyes. From now on, you don't leave this penthouse without me. Not for coffee, not for shopping, not for air. The command should have irritated her. Instead, the raw fear beneath his words made her chest ache. Kang Dae. I mean it. He crossed to her, hands framing her face with surprising gentleness. I can't bury another woman I care about. Care about. The admission hung between them, fragile and terrifying. You barely know me, she whispered. I know you're brave and reckless, and you make me laugh for the first time in 5 years. His thumb traced her bottom lip. I know that losing you would destroy what's left of me. How was she supposed to resist that? Okay, she said softly. I won't go anywhere alone. Relief crashed across his features. He pressed his forehead to hers, and for a moment the crime scene photos and the danger faded. There was only this, his breath mingling with hers, his hands gentle on her face, the feeling that maybe she wasn't so alone in this nightmare. Ji-hoon cleared his throat loudly. As touching as this is, there's more. I ran background on everyone connected to the previous victims. Kang-dae didn't lift his head. And? One name appeared in connection with all 3 women. Ji-hoon's voice went grim. Someone who worked with Min Seo, attended yoga classes with Hye Jin, and catered Ji-won's engagement party. Jada's pulse spiked. Who? Ji-hoon turned the tablet around. The woman in the photo was stunning. Early 30s, sharp features, expensive Seoul business attire. Her smile was camera perfect, but her eyes were cold. Something about those eyes made Jada's stomach twist. Park Yoon-seo, Ji-hoon said. Your father's executive assistant, boss. She's worked for your family for 7 years. The room went deathly silent. Kang-dae's entire body went rigid against Jada. That's impossible. Yoon-seo's been with us since before Min Seo died. My father trusts her completely. Which would make her the perfect person to get close to your fiancés without raising suspicion. Ji-hoon pulled up more files. She had access to their schedules, their habits, their routines. And boss? She just requested a private meeting with Jada. Tomorrow afternoon. Says your father wants to properly welcome his new daughter-in-law to the family. Every cell in Jada's body screamed danger. Absolutely not, Kang-dae said. We're not sending her into... We don't have a choice. Jada's voice was steadier than she felt. If we refuse, your father will get suspicious. And if Yoon-seo is the killer, this might be our only chance to catch her. By using you as bait? Kang-dae's hands dropped from her face, curling into fists. No. Find another way. There is no other way. You said it yourself. 5 years of looking hasn't found them. She grabbed his arm, feeling the tension coiled beneath his skin. But if she thinks I'm an easy target, if she thinks I'm alone and scared, you're not going alone. His voice was absolute. If you do this, and I mean if, I'm with you every second. She'll expect me to come alone. It's a private meeting. I don't give a damn what she expects. Kang-dae turned to Ji-hoon. We wire her. Tracking device, audio, the works, and I'll be close enough to reach her in 30 seconds. Less. Ji-hoon nodded slowly. It could work. If Yoon-seo tips her hand, says anything incriminating, we'll have her. Jada's heart hammered, but her voice stayed firm. Where's the meeting? The Grand Hyatt. Public restaurant, lots of witnesses. Ji-hoon pulled up details. 2 p.m. tomorrow. She suggested the cafe on the main floor. Public place, daytime. Witnesses everywhere. It should have been reassuring. Instead, Jada couldn't shake the image of those 3 dead women, white chrysanthemums in their hair. I can do this, she said, more to convince herself than them. Kang-dae stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. If anything happens to you, it won't. She wrapped her arms around him, feeling his heart race against her cheek. You won't let it. Damn right I won't. He pulled back just enough to look at her, and the possessive intensity in his gaze made her shiver. You're mine now, Jada Morrison, and I protect what's mine. The caveman declaration should have annoyed her feminist sensibilities. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had in weeks. So romantic, Ji-hoon muttered. Really, I'm tearing up over here. Jada laughed despite everything and felt Kang-dae's chest shake with matching laughter against her. Maybe they were insane. Maybe this plan would get her killed. But for the first time since stepping off that plane from L.A., she didn't feel like a victim waiting to happen. She felt like a woman with something worth fighting for, even if that something was a dangerous, tattooed MAFIA heir with a hero complex and a kiss that could melt steel. Tomorrow, then, she said. Kang-dae's arms tightened around her. Tomorrow. And silently, They both prayed it wouldn't be her last. The Grand Hyatt's cafe was all marble and glass, afternoon sunlight streaming through windows overlooking Seoul. Jada sat at a corner table, hands wrapped around an untouched latte, trying to look calm while her heart threatened to break through her ribs. The wire taped between her breasts itched. The tracking device in her bracelet felt obvious, and Kang Dae's voice in her nearly invisible earpiece was the only thing keeping her grounded. "I'm right outside," he murmured. 20 seconds away. "You look beautiful, by the way. That dress is killing me." Despite everything, heat crept up her neck. He'd chosen the dress this morning, fitted black silk that hugged every curve. His hands had lingered on the zipper, his breath hot against her neck as he'd whispered, "If this wasn't a trap, I'd be peeling this off you right now." "Focus," she whispered back. "She's late." "She'll come. Killers love their drama, kind of like someone else I know." "Are you seriously flirting with me? Right now?" "Would you prefer I panic?" His voice softened. "Talking to you keeps me sane, baby." "Baby." The endearment made her chest warm. A shadow fell across her table. "Mrs. Huang, how lovely to finally meet you." Jada looked up into Park Yoon-seo's perfect smile. Up close, the woman was stunning. Designer dress, flawless makeup, cold eyes that assessed Jada like a threat to be eliminated. "Miss Park." Jada gestured to the seat, channeling her mother's Lagos-bred grace. "Thank you for the invitation. Please, call me Yoon-seo." The woman sat with fluid precision, ordering green tea in rapid Korean. Then her attention fixed back on Jada. "I must say, when Mr. Huang told me his son had finally married, I was shocked. Kang Dae's been so private since his last tragedy." The way she said tragedy made Jada's skin crawl. "He's been through a lot," Jada said carefully, "but we're very happy together." "Are you?" Yoon-seo's head tilted. "Forgive me for being direct, but arranged marriages are rarely about happiness, especially when they're designed to settle gambling debts." Jada's blood went cold. How did she know about Marcus? "I see Mr. Huang shares everything with his assistant," Jada said, keeping her voice light. "Mr. Huang trusts me with his most sensitive information." Yoon-seo's smile sharpened. "I've been with the family for 7 years. I've seen everything." "Everything?" "Every engagement, every tragedy." Her fingers traced the rim of her teacup. "Poor Min Seo and Hye Jin, so vibrant. Ji-won was my personal favorite, though. She had this laugh that just lit up a room." The possessive way she spoke about the dead women made Jada's stomach turn. "You knew them all," Jada said. "I made it my business to know them. After all, they were going to be part of the family." Yoon-seo's eyes glittered. "I wanted to ensure they were suitable." "And were they? Does it matter? They're all dead now." The casual cruelty stole Jada's breath. In her ear, Kang Dae's breathing went ragged. "Easy," he murmured. "Keep her talking. You're doing perfect." "That must have been difficult," Jada said. "Losing people you'd gotten close to." "Difficult?" Yoon-seo laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Mrs. Huang, I didn't lose anyone. They were never mine to begin with. They were his." The possessiveness in that word, his, was unmistakable. "You're in love with Kang Dae," Jada said softly. Something dangerous flickered across Yoon-seo's perfect features. "Love is such a provincial word. I'm devoted to him. I've watched him grow into the man he is today. I've been there for every triumph, every failure, every dark moment, and every dead fiancé." The cafe noise seemed to fade. Yoon-seo's smile widened. "You're smarter than the others. I wondered if you'd figure it out." She leaned forward and Jada fought the instinct to run. Min Seo never suspected. Hee-jin got close, but not close enough. Ji-won actually confronted me. Called me obsessed. What did you do to her? What I had to do. They were obstacles keeping Kang Dae from seeing what was right in front of him. Yoon-seo's voice went cold. Me. I've always been there. I'm the one who truly understands him. He doesn't love you. Yoon-seo's mask cracked. He will, once you're gone. Once all the distractions are eliminated, he'll finally understand. Her hand moved to her purse. "Jada, move!" Kang Dae's voice exploded in her ear. Yoon Seo pulled out a syringe, lunging across the table with terrifying speed. The needle came within inches of Jada's neck. And then Kang Dae was there. He caught Yoon Seo's wrist mid-strike, twisting with brutal efficiency. The syringe clattered to marble. Yoon Seo screamed, rage and betrayal as he shoved her back. "You!" she spat. "I did this for you. You murdered 3 innocent women." His voice was lethal. "That's not love, that's obsession." Ji-hoon appeared with security guards surrounding Yoon Seo, but she kept screaming, eyes locked on Kang Dae. 7 years! 7 years I've sacrificed everything! And for what? For you to choose her? Kang Dae didn't respond. He pulled Jada against his chest, his arms crushing her to him, his heart hammering against her back. "You're okay," he breathed into her hair. "I've got you." As they dragged Yoon Seo away, still screaming professions of twisted devotion, Jada buried her face in Kang Dae's chest, breathing in his scent, letting his strength anchor her. "Is it over?" she whispered. "It's over." His hands cupped her face, tilting it up. His eyes were wild, terrified, relieved. "You were so brave, so damn brave. I was terrified." "You were perfect." Then his mouth was on hers, desperate and claiming, right there in the middle of the cafe with dozens of people watching. He kissed her like she was air and he was drowning, like he'd almost lost her and couldn't bear to let go. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against hers. "Let's go home." Home. The word settled something in her chest. But as Ji-hoon escorted them out, Jada glanced back at the cafe entrance where they'd taken Yoon Seo. Something about the woman's final expression nagged at her. Because Park Yoon Seo's eyes hadn't held defeat in those last moments. They'd held triumph. Like this was all part of a larger plan. And Jada had just walked right into it. Jada woke to darkness and the feeling of being watched. Her eyes flew open, heart lurching, but it was only Kang Dae, sitting in the chair beside their bed, fully dressed despite the 3 a.m. glow of the bedside clock. His eyes were shadowed, haunted, fixed on her like he was memorizing every detail. "How long have you been watching me?" Her voice came out rough with sleep. 2 hours, maybe 3. He didn't look away. "I keep seeing that syringe, inches from your neck. If I'd been 1 second slower..." "But you weren't." Jada sat up, the silk sheets pooling around her waist. She was wearing one of his shirts, black, oversized, smelling like him. "I'm fine. We caught her." "Did we?" Kang Dae's jaw tightened. Ji-hoon called an hour ago. Yoon Seo's lawyer showed up. Some high-powered attorney from one of Seoul's most expensive firms. Dread pooled in Jada's stomach. "Your father sent..." "No, my father wants her prosecuted. He's furious." Kang Dae stood, moving to the window overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. The dragon tattoo on his forearm seemed to writhe in the city lights. So who's paying for her defense? The question hung between them, ominous. "Maybe she has money," Jada offered weakly. "Executive assistants don't retain lawyers who charge $10,000 an hour." He turned back, and the intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. Her confession was too easy, too performative, like she wanted to get caught. Jada thought back to those final moments, Yoon Seo's eyes holding triumph. "You think someone else is involved? I think we're missing something big." His voice went rough. "Which means you're still in danger. Or you're paranoid from 5 years of expecting the worst." His mouth quirked, almost a smile. "Also possible." Jada threw back the covers, crossing to him. When she reached him, she slid her arms around his waist, pressing her cheek to his chest. His heart thundered beneath her ear. "We're safer than we were yesterday," she murmured. "That has to count for something." Kang Dae's arms wrapped around her, one hand sliding into her hair. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it." She tilted her head back. "Or at least pretend for one night. Just us. No killers. No threats. Can you do that?" Something shifted in his expression, the haunted look fading, replaced by heat that made her pulse spike. "Just us? Just us." She rose on her toes, lips brushing his jaw. "In this moment." He lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her back to the bed. The silk sheets were cool against her heated skin as he laid her down, his body covering hers, deliciously heavy. "You're dangerous," he murmured against her lips. "You make me forget everything except this." "Good." She pulled him down for a kiss that was all heat and desperate relief. His weight pressed her into the mattress, solid and real, and God, she'd almost lost this, almost lost him. His mouth moved to her, neck, teeth grazing her pulse. "I'm falling for you, you know that, right?" The confession made her chest ache. "Kang Dae, this wasn't supposed to happen, but I'm falling hard and She kissed him to stop the words, because hearing them made everything too real, too terrifying. This marriage was supposed to be temporary, transactional, but somewhere between death threats and late-night confessions, it had become devastatingly real. His hands slid beneath his shirt she was wearing, fingers tracing patterns on her bare skin that made her gasp. "Say it back." "What?" "Tell me I'm not alone in this." His eyes were vulnerable, desperate. "Tell me you feel it too." "I feel it," she whispered. "I'm terrified of how much I feel it." His smile was beautiful and broken. "We'll be terrified together then." The kiss that followed promised things neither of them could say out loud yet. His touch was reverent, claiming, and Jada lost herself in the sensation of finally being wanted, finally being... Her phone exploded with sound. They froze. The ringtone was her mother's, the woman who never called at 3 a.m. unless something was catastrophically wrong. Kang Dae rolled off immediately, and Jada grabbed the phone with shaking hands. "Mom? Jada, baby..." Her mother's voice was terrified, muffled. "Someone's in the house. They broke in. I called the police, but..." A crash. Her mother's scream cut short. Then a new voice came on the line, smooth, female, chillingly calm. "Hello, Mrs. Huang. Did you really think Park Yoon-seo was working alone?" Jada's blood turned to ice. "Who is this?" "Someone who's been waiting a very long time to make the Huang family pay. Yoon-seo was just the opening act." The woman's laugh was soft, almost gentle. "The real show is about to begin, and your mother has front row seats. If you hurt her, you'll what? You're in Seoul. She's in Los Angeles. By the time you board a plane, this will all be over." A pause. "Unless, of course, Kang Dae's father is willing to negotiate. I'm sure he remembers what he did 7 years ago. I certainly do." The line went dead. Jada stared at the phone, her entire body numb with shock and terror. 7 years ago, the same time Yoon-seo joined the family, the same time this nightmare started. Kang Dae was already moving, throwing on clothes, barking orders into his own phone in rapid Korean. Then he was pulling her to her feet, his hands framing her face. "We're getting her back," he said, his voice absolute. "I swear to God, Jada, we're getting your mother back." "How? We don't even know who..." "My father does." Kang Dae's expression went dark. 7 years ago, something happened. Something big enough that someone's been planning revenge ever since. He grabbed his keys, his gun, and we're about to find out what. As they raced out of the penthouse toward his father's compound, Jada couldn't shake the horrible realization settling in her bones. This wasn't about jealous assistance or obsessive love. This was about revenge. And her mother, her innocent, beautiful mother, was just collateral damage in a war that started long before Jada ever stepped foot in Seoul. A war Kang Dae's family had started, and now Jada would have to help them finish it. Kang Dae's father sat behind a desk that had probably cost more than Jada's childhood home, his weathered face impassive as she stood trembling with rage in his office at 4 a.m. 7 years ago, Jada said, her voice shaking. "What did you do 7 years ago?" Seung-min Hwang didn't flinch. He simply poured himself whiskey like they were discussing weather, not her mother's kidnapping. "That's complicated." "Uncomplicated." Kang Dae's voice was lethal. "Now." The old man's gaze shifted to his son. For a moment, something like regret flickered across his features. "There was a business dispute. A family in Busan, the Choi family, controlled shipping routes we needed. I made them an offer. They refused." Jada's stomach dropped. "What did you do?" "What I had to do to protect this family's interests." Seung-min took a slow sip. The Choi patriarch and his sons had an unfortunate accident. Their shipping empire collapsed. We acquired their assets. You killed them, Kang Dae said flatly. I eliminated a business obstacle. His father's voice was ice. It's what we do. Jada wanted to scream. This casual talk of murder, of destroying families like it was just another transaction. And now someone wants revenge. The Choi daughter, Min-ah. Sung-min pulled out a photograph, a young woman with cold, calculating eyes. She was 18 when I killed her father and brothers. She swore vengeance, disappeared for years. He slid the photo across the desk. Apparently, she's been planning this meticulously. Jada stared at the face of the woman who had her mother. Young, beautiful, radiating hatred that could burn cities. Where is she? Kang Dae demanded. I don't know, but she's been embedding people in our organization for years. Yoon Seo was one of hers, planted to get close to learn our vulnerabilities. Sung-min's jaw tightened. She's been playing the long game, and now she has leverage. My mother, Jada's voice cracked, an innocent woman who has nothing to do with your war. Which is precisely why she took her. The old man's eyes held something almost like sympathy. Min-ah knows the only way to truly hurt this family is through the people we love. She tried with Kang Dae's fiancés, but he kept his distance. Now she has someone he can't distance himself from. His gaze shifted between them. Someone you both love. The words hit Jada like a physical blow. Her mother, her strong, fierce mother who'd raised 2 kids alone after immigrating from Nigeria to Michigan, was going to die because Jada had married into a family of monsters. We need a location, Ji-hoon said, appearing in the doorway with his tablet. Boss, I traced the call. Burner phone, but the background noise. I ran audio analysis. Kang Dae moved to study the screen, his hand finding Jada's and squeezing once. The gesture kept her from falling apart completely. There, Ji-hoon pointed. Ocean sounds, specifically Santa Monica Pier. The carousel music in the background is distinctive. California, Jada breathed. She took my mom from Michigan to L.A. Because she wants you to come, Sung-min said quietly. This isn't about your mother. It's about making you suffer, making Kang Dae watch you suffer, making me watch my son lose another woman he loves. Kang Dae's hand tightened on hers. We're going to L.A. now. You're walking into a trap. I don't care. Kang Dae turned to face his father, and the fury in his eyes was terrifying. You started this war. You killed her family, and now an innocent woman is paying for your sins. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give us every resource, every contact, every weapon we need. And if anything happens to either of them, if I lose Jada or her mother because of your past, his voice dropped to something deadly. I'll finish what Min-ah started. I'll burn this empire to the ground myself. The room went silent. Sung-min stared at his son for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. The jet leaves in 20 minutes. Take whoever you need. Bring them home. As they raced toward the car, Jada's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Santa Monica Pier, midnight tonight. Come alone or Mommy Dearest takes a swim. And Jada, wear something nice. I want you to look beautiful when I put a bullet in your head. Below the text was a photo. Her mother, bound and gagged, tears streaming down her face. But alive. Still alive. Kang Dae read the message over her shoulder, his entire body going rigid. You're not going alone. She'll kill my mother if I don't. She'll kill you both either way. This is revenge, Jada. She wants me to watch you die. His voice cracked. That's the point of all this. Jada turned to face him, cupping his jaw in her hands. The stubble beneath her palms was rough, familiar. Then we outsmart her, together, like we've been doing since the beginning. I can't lose you. His hands covered hers, desperate. I just found you. We just started. You won't lose me. She pulled him down for a fierce kiss, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. Fear and love and absolute determination. When she pulled back, her voice was steady. Because I'm not some helpless victim. I'm Jada Morrison, daughter of a woman who survived poverty and racism and raising 2 kids alone in America. I've got her strength in my blood. She met his eyes. And I've got you at my back. Minna doesn't stand a chance. Kang Dae stared at her like she'd rearranged his entire world. Then he kissed her again, slower this time, tender and claiming and desperate all at once. Okay, he murmured against her lips. We do this together, but I'm bringing an army she'll never see coming. Wouldn't have it any other way. On the private jet somewhere over the Pacific, Kang Dae held her against his chest while Ji-hoon briefed the tactical team. Jada couldn't sleep, couldn't think past the image of her mother's terrified face. Tell me about her, Kang Dae said quietly. Your mom. Jada's throat tightened. She's the strongest person I know. Came to America from Lagos with nothing but a dream and determination. Worked 3 jobs to put food on the table. She smiled despite the tears. She taught me that Morrison women don't break. We bend, we adapt, but we don't break. Like mother, like daughter. His hand traced patterns on her arm. She's going to be so proud of you. For what? Getting her kidnapped? For surviving. For fighting back. For becoming exactly the kind of woman she raised you to be. He tilted her chin up. You're incredible, you know that? I'm terrified. You're both. He kissed her forehead. And I'm completely in love with you. The confession stole her breath. Kang Dae, I know it's fast, I know it's insane, but if tonight goes wrong, if something happens... His voice broke. I need you to know that marrying you was the best thing that ever happened to me, even if it started as a nightmare. Tears spilled down her cheeks. It better not go wrong because I'm not done with you yet. We have a whole lifetime of annoying each other planned. His laugh was wet, broken. A lifetime sounds perfect. 12 hours after leaving Seoul, Jada stood on Santa Monica Pier as the sun set over the Pacific. The carousel music tinkled cheerfully while her heart tried to break through her ribs. Somewhere in the crowd, Kang Dae and his team were positioned. She was wired, tracked, armed with a knife strapped to her thigh beneath her dress, but she'd never felt more alone. Hello, Jada. She turned. Minna Choi stood 3 feet away, beautiful and deadly, a gun concealed beneath her designer jacket. Her smile was winter itself. Where's my mother? Close. Minna tilted her head, studying Jada like a specimen. You're braver than I expected. Most people would have brought an army. I did, Jada said quietly. You just can't see them yet. Minna's smile widened. Good. I was hoping you'd make this interesting. Then she pulled the gun, pressing it against Jada's ribs. Walk, and if your husband makes one move, I'll put a bullet in your spine before he can reach you. The gun dug into Jada's ribs as Min-ah forced her toward the end of the pier, away from the crowds, toward the dark water below. Every instinct screamed to fight, to run, but one wrong move, and her mother died. You know what's funny? Min-ah's voice was conversational, almost pleasant. Your husband thinks he's so clever. Tactical team in the crowd, snipers on the rooftops. I can see them all. Jada's blood went cold. Then you know you won't. Make it out of here alive. Neither will you, or your mother. Min-ah smiled. But at least I'll have the satisfaction of destroying what Seungmin Hwang loves most, his son's happiness, just like he destroyed mine. They reached the end of the pier. Min-ah kicked open a storage shed door, and Jada's heart nearly stopped. Her mother sat bound to a chair, duct tape over her mouth, eyes wide with terror, but alive, breathing, fighting against her restraints with the same fierce determination she'd passed to her daughter. Mom, Jada breathed. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but she shook her head frantically, a warning. Too late. Min-ah shoved Jada inside, the gun now aimed at her mother's head. Here's how this works. Kang Dae has exactly 2 minutes to show himself, or I blow her brains out. Then yours. Then I disappear before his little army can stop me. He won't come, Jada lied desperately. He doesn't care enough to... Please, I've been watching you 2 for weeks, the way he looks at you. Min-ah's laugh was bitter. That's real love, the kind I'll never have because Seungmin Hwang murdered my entire family. Her voice cracked. So yes, he'll come. and he'll watch you both die. Through the wire, Jada heard Kang Dae's voice, steady despite the terror beneath. 30 seconds. Ji-hoon's getting into position. She needed to buy time. Your family. Were they good people? Min-ah's mask flickered. What? Your father. Your brothers. Were they good people, or were they like the Hwangs? Killers playing business games? They were my family. The gun trembled slightly. That's all that matters. No, it's not. Jada took a careful step forward. Because if they were good people, they wouldn't want this. They wouldn't want you to become exactly what Sung-min is, a murderer who destroys innocent lives for revenge. Shut up. My mother never hurt anyone. She's a nurse, Min-ah. She saves lives. And you're going to kill her because you can't let go of hate? Jada's voice broke. That doesn't honor your family. It just creates more bodies, more daughters who'll spend their lives planning revenge. When does it end? For one moment, one fragile, impossible moment, something human flickered in Min-ah's eyes. Then Kang Dae burst through the door. Everything happened at once. Min-ah spun toward him, gun rising. Jada lunged, her hand finding the knife strapped to her thigh. Her mother threw her weight sideways, chair and all, crashing into Min-ah's legs. The gun fired. Jada screamed, but the bullet went wide, splintering wood. Then Kang Dae was there, tackling Min-ah with brutal force. The gun skittered across the floor. Ji-hoon appeared in the doorway, weapon drawn, as Kang Dae pinned Min-ah to the ground. It's over, he said quietly. Min-ah laughed, broken, defeated. It'll never be over. Another family, another vendetta. This is what the Hwangs are. This is what you are. Kang Dae looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood, pulling out his phone. Ji-hoon, call the FBI. She's their problem now. He turned to Jada, who was frantically cutting through her mother's bonds. Are you hurt? No, I'm... Mom! The tape came off, and her mother gasped, sobbing. Baby girl, oh God, baby. They collapsed into each other, both, crying, both whole. Jada buried her face in her mother's neck, breathing in her familiar scent, cocoa butter and strength and home. I'm so sorry, Jada sobbed. This is all my fault. Hush. Her mother pulled back, framing Jada's face with shaking hands. You survived. You fought. You saved me. Her gaze shifted to Kang Dae, standing guard while Ji-hoon secured Min-ah. And you found someone who loves you enough to go to war for you. Jada looked at her husband, dangerous, protective, his eyes soft only when they landed on her. Yeah, I guess I did. Later, at Sung-min's LA safe house, Jada's mother sat wrapped in blankets, sipping tea while Kang Dae's father apologized in halting English. It was surreal watching a mafia king grovel to a Nigerian immigrant nurse from Ann Arbor. Your daughter saved my son, Sung-min said quietly. She gave him something I thought he'd lost forever. Hope. I cannot undo the pain my actions caused your family, but I swear to you, on my life, no harm will ever come to either of you again. Jada's mother studied him with the same fierce intelligence she'd used to raise 2 kids alone. See that it doesn't, because Morrison women don't forget, and we sure as hell don't forgive easily. Despite everything, Jada smiled. That was her mom. 3 months later, Jada stood in their new penthouse, not in Seoul, but in San Francisco, halfway between her mother in Michigan and Kang Dae's new legitimate business ventures in California. He'd walked away from the family empire, using his inheritance to build something clean, something that wouldn't create more daughters planning revenge. Your sister called, Kang Dae said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She wants to know when we're visiting Michigan, something about introducing me to real American food. Jada laughed, leaning into his warmth. She means coney dogs and better-made chips. Very gourmet. Can't wait. He pressed a kiss to her neck, and she shivered. Though I'm more interested in what you're planning for tonight. She turned in his arms, looping hers around his neck. The dragon tattoo on his forearm flexed as he pulled her closer. Tonight, I'm planning to remind my husband exactly why marrying me was the best decision he ever made. His eyes darkened with heat. I think I need frequent reminders. Daily, at least. I think that can be arranged. The kiss that followed was long, slow, full of promises they'd both fought to keep. When they finally pulled apart, Kang Dae rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Jada Morrison Huang." The hyphenated name still made her smile. "I love you too, even if you did almost get me killed." Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. We've had those too. They laughed together, and it felt like breathing after being underwater too long. They'd survived murder attempts, family wars, and their own demons. They'd earned this happiness. And Jada, daughter of a Nigerian immigrant, survivor of a mafia arranged marriage, wife to a reformed crime heir, had never felt more at home than she did right now, wrapped in the arms of the man who'd become her entire world. "Thank you," Kang Dae whispered. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. On us. Never." She pulled him toward their bedroom, heat and promise in her smile. "Morrison women don't quit. I told you that." His answering smile was beautiful, possessive, completely hers. "And Huang men don't let go once we find what we want." "Good," she whispered against his lips, "because you're stuck with me forever." Forever sounds perfect. And as the San Francisco sunset painted their new life in gold, Jada knew with absolute certainty this was her happy ending, hard-won, blood-earned, and completely worth every terrifying moment it took to get here. And that's how Jada Morrison went from forced bride to fearless queen. If you loved watching her and Kang Dae's journey from death threats to happily ever after, smash that like button and let me know in the comments. Would you have survived being married to a Korean mafia heir? And if you want more spicy Afro-Korean romance stories with possessive heroes and strong heroines who don't back down, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Trust me, it will be even more intense. See you in the next one.